Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Glorious Reacts. Before we begin, I would like to introduce ourselves. I'm your friend from down under, Arnold, and I am joined by the thriller from Manila, Joel. Say hi, Joel.
Hiya.
And our very own Singapore sling, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Hello.
Finally, Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings hit wider viewership with its release in Disney Plus's streaming service. Time to jump from bamboo pole to bamboo pole, run across walls, and channel our inner chi.
Bamboo pole.
This is a good point in the intro to inform you, dear audience, that this is not a spoiler-free show and that we will be talking directly about events that occur in the movie, most of which will be revealing key story elements. If you have not watched Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and would like to remain unspoiled, please stop here and come back once you've watched the movie. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get right to it. Alright, so I will be taking care of the recap tonight, so hopefully this one isn't going to be too long. Alright, let's go it. So, for 1,000 years, Wenwu had laid waste to countless armies and kingdoms using a set of mystical rings. Rings that don't go in his fingers, they go onto his forearms. With it, he was granted the power of a god and the gift of eternal life. To further his conquest, he establishes an organization he aptly calls the Ten Rings, whose reach and influence
So creative.
across the centuries spread far and wide. True enough, in the MCU, they are spread far and wide.
Mm-hmm.
His ambition eventually leads him to desire the mysteries of the fabled village of Ta Lo. The very mysteries he sought, however, thwarted all his attempts to gain access to this village. And instead of acquiring ancient magics handed down by the gods, he instead finds a reason to put away those rings that brought him so much power. He
And put
finds
one in the finger.
love. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I know. He puts one in the finger. Fast forward a couple of decades and we meet Shang Chi as a nondescript valet driver who, together with his best friend Katie, lives a rather mediocre life, parking cars for posh hotels and singing late-night karaoke. This ordinary lifestyle is quickly upended when Shang-Chi is attacked by members of the Ten Rings organization, keen on acquiring his necklace, something his late mother gave him and his sister. Shang-Chi quickly uses his, till then, hidden mastery of martial arts to escape the Ten Rings and save a runaway bus full of people. Realizing that the past he's been running away from has finally caught up to him, he rushes off to find his long-estranged sister to warn her. It isn't long, however, before the Ten Rings catch up to both of them, preventing their escape, and Shang-Chi and his sister Xialing are finally reunited with their father, Wenwu. Wenwu claims he has never lost track of his children, and that he has come for them so that Shang-Chi can take his rightful place by his side. This reunion, however, has a secondary, more pertinent goal. Wenwu has resumed his conquest of Ta Lo, and the necklace is a key to getting in. Their entire family fell apart with the death of their mother. Harboring grief and despair, Wenwu discovered that there could be a way to revive his long-lost wife. Shang-Chi and Xialing quickly find out that their father's rekindled obsession with Ta Lo was fueled by a darker, more sinister force. Shang-Chi and Xialing, together with Katie and, oddly enough, Trevor Slattery of the Mandarin fame, rush to Ta Lo to warn them with the invading Ten Rings organization not far behind. The ensuing clash pits father against son and Earth against creatures from beyond. What? Shang-Chi must learn to master himself in order to overcome his grief-stricken and magically powered father in the hope to save what remains of his family and, of course, the whole world. Alright, well,
Nice recap.
thanks.
Mm.
I
Very
like that
pro.
one.
Very pro.
Yeah.
Very pro. Sorry, God. Let's go to our highs, and let's start off with Paul this time. So go ahead. take it away.
Highs. Hi, yeah.
High
No.
of the movies.
So my highs are very, very superficial. Um,
Ooh.
I don't know why, but I'll probably will elaborate later. But okay, so I'm gonna go down the list. So first, fight choreography. I really like what they've done here. Um, it's been a while since I watched a martial arts film, so I still feel it's not up to par if versus like watching maybe something from Jackie Chan, but still it's a good effort. I really like the choreography, scenes in the bus, the bamboo places, the
The scaffolding.
scaffolding. There you go,
Yeah.
scaffolding. It reminds me of another film. I just it slips my mind. There was another film that one of the scenes was bamboo scaffolding. I think it was Jet Li, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway,
Probably if it's like Hong Kong cinema, it's probably
Yeah,
each
Hong Kong
and every
cinema.
one.
Yeah, they usually have that kind of a scene.
Yeah.
It's like a trope.
um,
Yeah.
and contrast the final scene where they do fight choreography, but leaning more towards the CG and special effects part, which is also it's a good contrast where you have something similar to maybe a Daredevil scene, a Netflix
Oh.
Daredevil scene in the
Alright.
first half, and then in the second half something more akin to Endgame, where you have explosions.
Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Wider shot versus
special
like,
effects.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
you're referring to cramped spaces versus something that's wider and more
Wider, and then they
more
have the
spacious.
explosions on left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that which leads me to my next high, which is I like seeing all these mythical creatures.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Never introduced, but they're there. It's
They
really cool.
introduced one.
I mean, they've
Don't know
never
what
introduced
he's
them
called.
prior to this. Prior to this.
Right. So if you're not exactly a fan of Chinese mythology, you would have
Yeah,
no
you will
idea.
not- You probably know the dragon, but
You prob-
that's it.
No, I would actually expect that there's enough of us, who exist now that is familiar with the nine-tailed fox.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course, of
So-
course. And the Kirin, I think that was a Kirin, wasn't it a Kirin?
Which one? The weird-looking horse.
No, yeah, the weird looking horse.
The one with the
I was
long
I was like I was somewhat expecting what do you call this Aquafina to have a different kind of reaction because it kind of looked like her character in her Disney movie.
What do you call this? Raya.
Yeah.
She looked like what was her name? Like he was a dragon there.
Yeah.
Right,
But
yeah.
the color scheming was the same. Yeah, and it
You-
looked intently at them. I was
Yeah.
expecting her to say something.
Yeah. The only thing I couldn't, well, at least I didn't get a grasp on was the cuddly thing with four wings and 4 feet.
I've
I don't know what that is.
info on that one if you'd like me to share.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
What is it?
So
I'm actually
that
a little curious.
interestingly enough, Morris. So you're referring to Morris and his kin.
Yeah.
It's called a hunun or something like that, which interestingly enough is in Chinese mythology represents chaos. They are like
Okay.
the primordial thing where before heaven and earth split into the yin and yang. So the combination of everything, which is chaos, is apparently represented by that. It's
Okay.
And it's really that. It's like
really
a cuddly
that. It's
little
six
creature with 4
three
wings.
pairs with 4 wings, so 3 pairs of legs and 4 wings and no face.
And no face. Okay. Okay.
You apparently only know
Okay.
which direction he's facing because his feet apparently is actually
Uh-huh.
And the wings. The wings also, right?
There you
The shape
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and so my last high is I actually like the development of the characters and the story, but in a weird way because it's been a while since the last Marvel movie, I guess.
Black Widow, man. We
Yeah,
just
that
saw
was
it
fairly,
a couple of
fairly
months ago.
recent. Black
Was
Widow
it
was the
fairly-
last one.
It felt really it felt really like a long time since I watched another one.
I
Oh,
think
but
this is
maybe-
because so when Black Widow came out in streaming service was like July or something like that, and then
yeah.
obviously Shang Chi came out on cinema
but we
you
never
weren't able
caught it
to
on
to
cinema.
catch
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So
Okay,
that's
so
why.
maybe that's why it felt like it was a long time. But I mean, when you're talking about character development, Black Widow movie isn't really the thing that comes to mind,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah.
so this one actually I like that they touched on the origin but not too much.
Mhm.
So and it's basically leaving us where in a spot where we know his background already and we know what's coming. Well, we have an idea of what might come,
Mhm.
and but everything there's space, there's wiggle room to develop the character more. And they only spent one movie on it, right? So they and it was finishing the cycle of one, which is the Ten Rings organization under his dad
Mhm.
and
Yes.
under the Mandarin. So that's done. That's wrapped up tightly, and that's already archived basically. And you progress to a new Ten Rings organization with the daughter, with his sister
Mhm.
and
Xialing.
Xialing, and it's really I really felt like it's it's a good character development because you have the siblings. They have two different paths that they're taking.
Mhm.
So and I can't wait to watch both. I mean, I hope the Ten Rings becomes like a TV show in Disney on Disney Plus. Sounds like it
Like
can
a
be.
like the book of Fett.
Yeah, like a book. Yeah, the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, but I don't know if they're gonna be like a good Ten Rings organization. they look. I don't know
They
what's
will
gonna happen.
definitely look much better. It's very flowery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what they did with the place where they put a lot of graffiti around the
Yeah,
walls.
she's very
And they
modern.
started and she's very green minded. She put a lot of solar panels on the whole
Yeah.
rooftop.
She is.
I was like, whoa, okay. I like she's very environment
Forward
friendly.
thinker.
Forward
Very
thinker,
She's a
progressive
yeah.
when it
forward
comes to
thinker.
that kind of.
I mean, even in the movie, you saw that Xialing was very industrious.
Yeah.
She left the Ten Rings organization, started her own.
Yeah.
She struck out on her own and came up with that whole fighting
Apparently, a
ring,
very
right?
very
Rigged
successful,
fighting ring.
a very successful endeavor until
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ring showed up.
So
Mm.
yeah, so those are my highs.
Mm.
That's excellent. And then, so continuing on, I guess. Well, Joel, go ahead with. I know
With-
some of these overlap, but there's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
particular topic that I really would like you to highlight. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, we sort of touched on this before.
Correct.
But yeah, one of my first high is actually similar, the same, exactly the same as Paul's. Well, not exactly the same. But it's the fight choreography. It's the fight scenes. I really loved the fight scene. I loved the scaffolding fight scene more than the bus fight scene. I think that the bus fight scene used too much of the slow mo for my liking. Because if the intention was to pay homage to the Hong Kong martial arts kung fu, they
Yeah.
didn't have any. I've never seen any slow mo in Jackie Chan or
No.
right. Even in like the old kung fu movies, we never. I barely saw any slow mo.
Yeah.
Except if it was like the final hit of the hero on the villain, right?
The
That's the only
finishing
time
move.
that you would see the slow mo.
I don't
Yeah.
even think, if I'm not mistaken, and I have to really rewatch a few. I do like Hong Kong cinema. It's not slow mo. They like the repeat shot. So whenever
With
It
different
would be
angles.
cool and cute if they actually did that for
Like
this
the guy
one.
gets punched in the face 3 times, but
Yeah.
in different angles.
correct. Yeah, that one.
Right. So yeah, I like that. I like the bus, and then I like the scaffolding fight more. Yeah, and we had that face off between the Deathbringer
Yes.
and Shang Chi, which was kind of sad. It was cool that it was happening, but it turned out later to be sad because that's all there was. Right? We didn't really get to see Deathbringer do anything else. right? He didn't actually bring any death.
Wait. There was a training montage.
But he still, I mean, why? So the training montage of him like slapping
Something
Shang
naman.
Chi,
Yeah.
right,
It's
with a
all
stick.
it's all what you call this child abuse. It's all they could do.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I mean, I'm not looking for him to like reveal who he actually is or he or she actually is. But yeah, we didn't see him or her or them bring any death at all.
Yeah.
The name was kind of a misnomer.
Oh,
But
clarify,
okay,
clarify. It's death dealer. Not
dealer. Okay, so
death
the
bringer.
so yeah, they didn't deal any death at all, right? Right. So yeah, all that they did was like throw that dagger thing that blew up the window. Okay, I'm already moving to my lows, but okay, let's go back to the
Go back. Yeah,
highs.
exactly.
Let's go back
Please.
to the highs.
Please
All
go
right, but the
back.
scaffolding, I really love the scaffolding fight. The mini twist that Xialing suddenly came back to help them. That was really cute. And it shows it bleeds into my second it leads to my second high, which is the central theme of family, which I think is very relatable, especially for us, for Asians, no? For
Mm.
Asian audiences, where family is very central. It's very key to life. I mean, it's characteristic of Filipino families that
Mm.
we have a very tight knit family, and I think that the fact that they focused on that for this particular film, it really made it feel more authentic
Mm.
as an Asian film,
Mm.
because family values are very heavy in Asian culture, and it goes back to what I was saying. Like you all of a sudden, we saw that Shaling was already being ferried away by the fast talking. He's a known actor. He's a known comedian. I know that dude. I just don't know his name,
Oh,
but
the
he's a stand-up
guy.
comedian.
Correct.
And yeah, he was already bringing Xialing out, and then all of a sudden we see her come back because again it's family. Yeah, that's her brother, right?
Yeah.
Her older brother. Despite the fact that she felt abandoned, she still comes back for him.
Mm.
And yeah, that brought back that idea and the whole idea of succession, even between Wen Wu and Shang Chi. It continues that, and then the main conflict is rooted in family,
Mm.
because Wen Wu has that idea that he's bringing back his wife, the
Mm.
mother of Shang Chi and Xia Ling, when in fact, and that brings up the conflict because Shang Chi knows otherwise, and it's not really their mother.
Yeah.
All right, so that that whole family thing, it was really vital and very cool. And speaking of relationships, I really love the way that they built the relationship of Sean and Katie.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Right?
yes.
It was yeah. I mean, you would see that they were really friends.
Yeah.
Kudos to the acting of Simu Liu
Mm.
and Aquafina.
Aquafina, there was actually a quite amazing that relationship that they had wasn't purely just comedy.
Yeah.
Right. It was genuine, and I really enjoyed
It was genuine. You
Yeah.
could really feel that they were friends.
Yeah.
Right?
There's the bond.
And yeah, there was a bond, and there were even hints of it being a little bit more,
Mm.
which was
Exactly.
different for me. It was different
Yeah.
from other MCU films, because usually the romantic partners of your lead was the attractive partner, and a very attractive person. But here you have Aquafina. I mean, not everyone will find her attractive. I personally don't. But yeah, you have that it was built on a friendship,
Mm.
right? Yeah, and I'm a proponent of that. Like the best relationships come from good friendships, from strong friendships, and
From
that's something that they really pushed here.
strong ties.
Yeah, and that's why I really like the way that they built that. There is a little what do you call that, wrinkle that I would have wanted them to add, but it might have. I'll talk about it more and later
Sure.
in my expectations.
Sure.
But yeah, there's a little wrinkle that I hope that they would have added,
Mm.
but it might have pushed the runtime a little bit more.
Oh,
And
if there was
push
more
the plot.
exposition on that one. Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But
especially on that,
let's
because they
explore it.
teased something about it. They gave us elements of something else,
Mm.
but they never really paid everything off,
Mm.
or they, I don't know if they thought of it that way.
Or if it's a for
The
now thing. Let's park that and then we'll come back to that. I would like
Yeah.
to
What about you,
s-
Arnold?
s-
What are your highs?
my highs for this one, speaking about family, was one of those things as well. So we were talking about this a few days ago, preparing for this episode. That this, more than it being a superhero movie, this one's really more of a family movie, right? The establishment of that importance. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is it. This or the one that officially starts phase 4, or was it Black Widow? Black Widow.
No.
I have
Um,
a feeling it's supposed to be Shang Chi.
I
Yeah,
think it's
I
supposed to
think
be
this-
this one.
Yeah.
this one was
Yeah.
supposed to start, and then you'd have WandaVision, and then
The TV
Black
shows,
Widow.
but from the movie's perspective, for the MCU itself,
It's
the main
this one.
MCU, it's supposed
Yeah.
to be this one. Great. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
starting it off with such a with such a light, with such a theme, something that I really enjoyed, and they were very careful about how they represented it, and I really saw and felt like this is the type of family that we're familiar with. You've already pointed it out, Joel, that despite this being more on the Chinese American kind of family, we share a lot of similarities. So the nuclear family, us having extended relatives living with us, friends dropping by eating breakfast for free, right? Our elderlies regularly asking us awkward questions about when we're gonna get married. These are all standard, very culturally relevant family dynamics that I was so glad to see on screen. You're talking about the relationship between Sean and Katie, and that one is obviously something that I too also very much agree to and enjoyed. And this is, you can see how they supported each other, especially in the beginning of the film. They were like living this kind of life that they thought was totally fine. They were accepting of it. People around them were saying, "No, that's not enough. You guys have so much potential. Why are you wasting it?" And then obviously, how do they respond? They go sing karaoke, which is an extremely Asian thing to do as well. I mean, I don't want to appropriate the entirety of it to just purely Asians, but I mean, that's somewhat where it's being rooted from, and I really enjoyed it. More on the culture references, Paul mentioned about how the Chinese mythology is shown in this film. I also enjoyed that one, as well as seeing those lion dog creatures in Talo actually walking around. I really thought that it's like, oh, they're cute. They're like, they just like play. They're like puppies. Look at that. And then obviously they slap you and you fly halfway across the field. And they even have armor. They're amazing. They could bite.
Dragon scale.
I'm assuming their teeth is either sheathed in dragon scale or they just naturally can bite those flying thingies.
Yeah.
As well
Flying
as
soul suckers.
No,
flying
but
soul
it's
suckers.
not dragon's scale, right? Because when they get hit by dragon scale, they vaporize.
Yes.
But the dogs, like, they really digest.
Do they? Because
Like,
normally
Did
when
they?
they
Oh,
bite,
okay.
they pull back and then they shred.
Oh, okay.
okay, so they're
So it's just
capable of doing
it's just
that.
sheer force.
Yeah, it's just
probably
they're
sheer.
really just strong.
But because obviously we'll talk about how fascinating these creatures from beyond are, and how they seem to
Fascinating.
yes, I'm using that very very lightly. Eh, so I'm assuming these lion dog creatures are capable of just are more capable of more damage than Razor Fist's blade fist, because apparently when you cut those things, it doesn't matter, right? They just coagulate back. And it was fun to see all of those creatures. It was a nice discovery. The bamboo forest as a mystical bamboo forest
The
as
trap.
protection. was amazing. I really enjoyed that. I actually thought they'll be doing an interesting fight scene. And to be fair, we did sort of have a fight scene in the jungle, in the bamboo forest. It was a clearing in the bamboo forest where
Yeah.
Wenwu and what was
The mom.
what was the mother's
mom's
name?
name.
Lee
Lin?
something. Li Ling, is it Li Ling or something like that? I forget
Oh,
what
no.
her what her name.
We
Fala
can just-
Chen, the very
Yeah.
adorable.
We can
Fala
just
Chen
edit
is
and
the
then
one.
make them believe that we got the name right away.
Right, yes. With our mouths not syncing
Yeah.
properly. When they first met, and we got the very awesome crouching tiger, hidden dragon sequence there, um, which was cool. It was very much like a dance. She was using Tai Chi, obviously, versus his very more rounded brute force fighting style. I forget what fighting style he was using there.
Hungar?
A hungar because of the
Because of the
armbands.
Lee. The name of the mom is Lee.
Lee was straight out Lee. And
Maybe her other name is Chun. I don't know.
Leiko? Is it Leiko Wu?
What?
Which one are you referring to? The fighting
mom?
style?
No,
it
Lee.
was Lee.
The name is Lee. L-I.
it's Lee.
Maybe it's Shu Lee.
Her name
because
is
everybody's Shu.
Yeah.
And they turned that into a dance. Like it became more like a dance. We see that
I got a
repeated.
note on that.
We see that repeated when Shang Chi tries to learn
That's
it
precisely my note.
with
It
his
was so
aunt.
weird.
With his
No,
aunt.
yeah, with the aunt, and then later on with dad.
Well, he applies it with dad, and they have this very awkward stare.
Yeah, it was so awkward. It was exactly at
Hold
the
on,
same
hold on.
pace as.
Hold on to
Yeah.
that for when we talk about it in our lives. I just wanted to point out that it was still a
Yeah.
dance. It was still a choreographed dance. We quite enjoyed that one actually. When it was the father and the mother who was doing it. So the flashiness about with the fantasy. So we were talking about Hong Kong style kung fu movies, which are usually set in urban locations. So we had the trope of in buses and in bamboo scaffoldings. But the other side also is what they also showed the fantasy, the Chinese fantasy fighting styles. Obviously, there weren't as much wire choreography as I would like. There were some, but not a lot. I still enjoyed the one I saw in the forest. So there was no running through bamboo forest or flitting through branches like you were flying through the wind.
In Crouching Tiger, like
Exactly.
or even like Hero.
Or Hero, exactly. And I wanted to point this out. The Trevor Slattery character, I did not expect to see him. I really did not expect to see him ever again. But here we are. So I quickly watched Hail the King.
Hail the King. All Hail the King.
All Hail the King. To remind myself of
Yeah,
how it moved from the end of Iron Man 3. To when we see him again in and
I
all
think
we
that they
really
had to pay it off. They had to
Correct,
pay it
yes.
off that they did All Hail the King, so they had to bring him here. Right?
So there were two payoffs not two, but All Hail the King set up two things for the fans when it came out. One is that at the end of Iron Man 3 we saw a the Mandarin and we were completely like right. We were very not satisfied with that representation of the Mandarin. Apart from it being very poorly appropriated.
Yeah. Talk about whitewash.
Exactly. So I think it was there was two efforts for when they showed All Hail the King. One is that they wanted to establish that that was their first. And their second, there is more. right? There is more, and it actually gave us the said, okay, the 10 rings is more than just this. And I think I have a feeling this is the reason why we suddenly keep seeing a lot of the 10 rings scattered through a lot of these MCU movies. We see them in Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
We see them in well, Iron Man 2 obviously established. All of the Iron Man movies had the 10 rings somehow represented. Iron Man 2, I think Whiplash was given his documents by a 10 rings dude.
Dude.
Right? So that we are reminded that there's going to be more, and this is finally where the and this is where I'm getting with the Trevor Slattery character. We finally get the realization of all of this setup. Here's the 10 rings, and they're a lot better than just purely a terrorist group or some dudes who are buying questionable technology or supporting questionable characters. We're shown that they're a much more highly organized group. They're very long-lived, and they have their fingers everywhere. The Trevor Slattery character being brought back here is a continuation, I think, of that sorry from the All Hail the King. I'm assuming they're just poking fun at their entire. What I'm assuming is they agree is a mistake of putting the Mandarin.
Probably.
Even when Wu says they've named
After
the
an
character
orange.
after an orange.
Yeah, the whole world was afraid of an orange.
Exactly. So I think they're just completely poking fun at the entire concept. They're saying, and here's Trevor Slattery. He's a comedian. He's a jester. Let's all forget about things that happened there and just remember it as being something funny. And now let us move on. Right? So I'm just glad that he's back there actually. And there's more. There is more. Now let us go to our lows, and I can see Paul has some very, very interesting things to share. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Paul.
Oh,
Such a lot of things to say, and it's
I have a
lows.
lot. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
because as a whole, I actually enjoyed the film. But I think I'm coming from the perspective of just sitting down from stressful day and then just watching it, and I enjoyed it. So I had a good time. So I was actually struggling to put anything in my low because I really
You enjoyed it for what it was, yeah.
after
Yeah.
watching it, I felt
That's fine.
I was happy. And so my only nitpick, I guess, is that, well, aside from what I wrote, like, there's a lot of things that felt pretty accelerated, or they just had to, we need to get here quickly. Let's just do
The
this.
our usual
usual-
nitpick with
our usual
Let's
complaint
warp
about-
speed this part of it.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
the rings were very strong. Like they were OP, but they were OP at a time when they needed the rings to be OP. Because they got stopped by Tai Chi. Okay? But when they were facing off like
Hordes and
Cthulhu,
hordes of...
Cthulhu-like
Oh, yes.
Cthulhu-like entity, the rings just ripped that. It exploded that entity into a million pieces.
To
So
be fair,
I mean,
to be fair, he was doing the heavenly palm technique
Yeah.
from
Heaven's
That's-
palm.
Stephen Chow
from Stephen
taught him.
Chow's Shaolin.
Did you notice? Did you see the landlord?
He was there. Yes,
Yeah.
Was he there?
he was there. He
Yeah.
was part of the gang.
He was a teacher.
Oh wait, the teacher. Yes, and so there was a lot
The archery
of
teacher.
popular.
Oh,
Yes, he was there.
The Gambu? Is it?
The guy who always said that to Aquafina she wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready, and then the other guy, come with me. That was the last.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sad he died though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and good thing you mentioned Aquafina. Suddenly she's so excellent in the
She's
bow.
so good. Yeah.
Couple of hours.
No, one day, 24,
Several-
24 hours.
All right.
Give it a few
less than
days.
24 hours.
Give it a
I
few
mean,
And then
okay.
she can already shoot like what? 200 feet,
That's
300 feet
that's
away.
pretty. That was
Wow.
She
because they
believed
were
in
in
the
the
heart of
middle
the
of
bull.
the lake, right?
She
Yeah.
That's what
believed in the heart
I
of the
mean.
bull.
That was a big target, but still to be able to do that, right, with one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Shang Chi. So him learning that his mother's style or the technique, that's not a big leap. Like you don't have to he has years of training. So him being taught some new style, that's fine. Okay, we already know he has the capability. But learning to shoot an arrow and then hitting targets, that's really hard. I needed to suspend disbelief there.
Mm.
That's
To
okay.
understand that part. I
Katie
mean,
needed to be
Suspend or take it
useful.
away altogether.
just
Katie needed
throw
to
it in
be
the bin.
useful.
Sorry, what was that? What was that?
Katie needed to be useful
Yeah, she needs to be
in the
useful.
fight. I meant in the fight. So obviously, her character was for a different aspect of Shang Chi's acceptance of who he is.
Yeah.
But she also needed to be participative in the fight somehow, or
No,
else
but then it
she'll end up
opens
like
up to
Trevor
the
Slattery.
but it opens up to the possibility now that because in the end, right, Wong not only called
Yeah.
Shang-Chi.
Shang
Yes.
Chi,
So I've
But also
yeah.
Katie.
but also
Mhm.
Katie Bell.
Yeah.
You too.
So actually, she's yeah, her actual name is Katie Bishop.
Yeah.
She looks very different when it comes to Hawkeye.
No, Arnold, you don't understand. All the trailers that we've seen,
I
all the
know.
teasers,
Yeah, they've just they face
they're
swapped it.
CG. They
Yeah.
CG'd her out. They
Yeah.
CG'd her out.
Face swapped.
Anyway, so those are my lows. But yeah, overall, because it was I had such a good time after watching. I felt really good, and it made me happy watching it. I didn't have any much to nitpick. It was those things, and okay, sorry, one more thing, and just remembered it right now. I would have loved um for them to in add more traditional Chinese music during
Mm.
the scenes, because a lot of the
It was a
scenes,
lot of modern.
yeah, it felt a lot.
Yeah.
It felt too modern, especially the fight
Yeah.
scenes and the you mentioned the dance. That's the dance
Yep.
scene. It
Yep.
would have been great to introduce like a really more um
I agree
More of
with what
the
you're saying.
strings.
It's not
yeah,
as
exactly,
obvious because it's not as obvious. I mean, compared to something like Black Panther, wherein because it was percussion,
yes,
you,
yes.
you could hear it
Yeah.
almost instantly, and it was
So I
very,
guess
very
it's
iconic.
just more of the make it louder in that
More,
sense,
more
because
culture.
I mean in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you can hear the music really plays a big
Yeah.
part in the scenes of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and you really feel that part. And I hope that I wanted that to be present here as well,
Right.
but
Mm.
which it wasn't. But yeah, I mean overall, not a lot of lows for me.
Yeah.
Not a lot of lows for you, but for Joel. Oh my gosh, look at this list.
I
He
don't
has
have
been
a lot. I don't
preparing-
have a lot of
He has
lows.
been preparing this for a while. So let's
Yeah,
go.
I've been preparing it for like some time.
Let's go, Joel. Let's start.
Yeah, so
going
yeah,
first.
first off, like I said, like Paul, I did like the bus and the scaffolding fight scene. And he said that he liked the use of the CGI in Act 3.
Mm.
I didn't quite like it. I felt that the green screen was too obvious in Act 3. In Talo, you could really see it that they were trying to dull the background, and it all the more made it more obvious that they were acting in a green screen, right? And at times it felt like I was watching the CGI of a B movie
Oh my
instead
gosh.
of a Disney Marvels. I mean, we've come from Endgame. Even Black Widow had good CG during some of the action sequences, but I don't know. Maybe it was because of the circumstances with which under which they were filming. But the CGI was so obvious, and the quality of the rendering of the CGI was it wasn't at par with what we know that Marvel and Disney can do,
Mm.
right? Even
Correct.
with the Star Wars films, yeah, and the MCU films,
Could it
especially
be
the current ones.
because could it be because of the entire of how martial arts is usually choreographed? It does require a physical target. I mean, fighting against CGI monsters seems to be anathema to something as physical as martial arts. I don't know. Maybe it's that.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't even Shang Chi fighting with the ultra mega soul sucker. It wasn't that. It wasn't him using the the Buddha
That was the
palm
only
or
time.
the
That's the only time he
Kamehameha.
actually fought the thing. You,
Yeah, it
apart,
was it was it was him, and then everything around him. It felt subpar. The way that they rendered his environment compared to him, it felt subpar. It felt B movie. Yeah, and we expect more from Marvel, right? And when it comes to this, yeah, yeah, that I guess that's all I can say about that.
mm,
Okay, let's move on to my next low. I love I love the family theme. I love the fact that they focused on that because again, it's very Asian,
Mhm.
but I don't quite like the fact that they've been reusing the bringing balance theme,
The
like
yin
you're
and yang.
the yin and yang. I mean, no, not well, yeah, yin and yang, because that's also where like the force comes
Yeah.
from. The whole bringing balance to the force and
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah, that Shang Chi is the product of his father and his mother, so he is actually the completeness of both sides. So it's like, okay, come on, we've had all of that, we've gone through all of that. It could have his central motivation could have been something different. They probably could have put something more there. I mean, instead of bringing balance, or maybe more of like really bringing some sense into his father,
Mhm.
that probably could have been something that they could have explored instead of bringing balance. Next, I'm not gonna dwell too much on that. Next, we go to the villains. Oh my gosh, people have been praising the villains of Marvel a whole lot, but for me, they're becoming less and less
compelling.
villainous.
W- w-
Uh, it's the it's their it's it They were successful at making all of their villains very relatable.
Yep.
They've gotten too good at it that they're no longer villainous. They're just misunderstood.
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure that it's like sort of like a Disney slant. I mean, in Disney, we've got Maleficent, we've got what's her name? Emma Stone's character. They're not
Cruella.
villains. Cruella. They're not
Cruella.
villains. They're just misunderstood. And then again, we've got that here. Wenwu isn't villainous. He's just misunderstood. He's got the right motivation. He wants to free his wife. He didn't know that he was being seduced by an evil spirit,
Yes.
but his motivation is, I want to free my wife,
Mm, mm,
right? That in itself is good, right? You want to free your wife. You present you lost your wife. You weren't there when your wife was murdered.
Hmm.
and now
So
you have
and
an
then you're
opportunity.
presented with this opportunity to recover your wife.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you take that? It
No,
in itself, it's good, right?
that's correct. Yeah, and I think the problem with Wenwu's character is that his villainy was exposition.
Yes, and
Um,
yeah.
we know that for 1,000 years he was doing really bad things. Probably
Mhm.
he broke down that nice houses, that nice walled city's door. He just
Hmm.
Yeah.
right without even asking first.
Yeah,
So
that didn't even knock,
didn't,
right?
didn't even
Didn't
yeah,
even knock.
he clearly
Yep,
wasn't
yeah.
wanted there. So but he still went through. So I mean I think that's the problem there. By the time we know him as his father figure.
Yeah.
right?
Which
It's-
again goes back to the fact that they wanted to focus on family,
Correct.
Mm.
right? Which was a central theme of the film, right? But yeah, if we could have probably gotten a Wenwu, if we could have probably seen more of the villainous Wenwu, it might have, I don't know, it for me it might have made me appreciate him more even. Aside from the fact that he became this family man, and again, making him a relatable character and all of that. And again, I go back to Death Dealer. Death Dealer, so sadly underutilized.
I know.
He's got this really cool costume, really cool get up, and then he slaps this little kid silly for a long
Part of his
time
training.
as part of his training, right?
Yeah.
And then they have this one fight, and
Only
then after
one.
that,
You're correct. Only one.
they had only one fight. After that,
Death
when Wu
Dealer
comes in,
fights,
stop.
Yep. And then Death Dealer fights
Xialing.
Xialing.
Right?
No. She fights
no.
Wing the aunt.
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle
Yeoh's
Yeoh.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fights,
So yeah, so they fight again. You don't quite see how good he is, or they are. We don't actually know if the character is supposed to be male or female. The actor is
The
what,
actor
male?
is Andy Le. And I just have to
Okay.
highlight Andy Le is of the martial club. If you don't watch them on YouTube, you should. They do they do choreography, martial arts choreography,
Ooh.
for a lot of Hong Kong style cinema. So they show how they do it in recording, and then they show
Mhm.
how they did it. So
It-
there are a
it-
lot
it
of
was- it
physical
was
martial
done
arts.
in-
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Nice.
He's really good.
Nice. It would have been nice to see more of that.
Mm.
It would have been nice to see Death Dealer deal more death.
Yes.
But yeah, then we hardly see him, and then he all of a sudden he gets picked up by one of these little
What a terrible
suckers.
way to be.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
what terrible death! He got dealt death. He didn't deal death. He got dealt
And he
death.
had no agency in that.
Yeah. He was
His
just they were
skills
just like, okay, they
meant
see the big
for
baddie, and then
nothing.
all of a sudden,
His skills meant for nothing in the face of
yeah.
the flying Cthulhu polyp.
Maybe there's a lot of death dealers. The mask just gets passed on.
could be.
What's
I
this?
mean, but I
Black
don't think
Panther type?
Yeah.
Or,
I don't
James
think they're
Bond.
gonna revisit Death Dealer in this regard.
Maybe that stand-up comedian's gonna be the new Death Dealer.
John.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, speaking of skills that weren't really that good, you have Razor Fist, right? He was so blah to me. I mean,
It's interesting because he's a member of the Ten Rings. So
Yeah,
you
but-
would have assumed he's like trained and all the
Yeah,
Despite
but all
having
he's got
only one
going for him
arm.
was that blade on his arm.
Yep.
That he
Yeah.
switched to a dragon scale.
Yeah, dragon, and
He
it's
slashes.
this is a thought that I had every time that his blade would retract. I kept remembering those Scanner toys in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
the Star Wars Scanner toys,
Yeah.
where the blade would retract into the arm. So I was like,
Yeah.
so does the blade go into his bicep? And all of that?
Yeah. Where does it go?
Where does it go? What
Exactly.
happens
So
to it?
and remember in the way that they cut his it's on his forearm, so his
Yeah.
elbow needs to be able to bend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
how would it go? So if
So
it's
these are the
retracted, his arm would remain straight.
Maybe
I
it
guess.
doesn't
Keep-
the whole thing doesn't retract. Maybe like it
Maybe
folds.
it's nanobots.
No, maybe it
comes into the
folds.
stump.
The blade folds and unfolds.
And remember, the original Razor Fist had both arms
Yeah,
as swords. So
Yeah.
thank God he only had one.
yeah.
Or else
Because how would he like scratch his nose or something? How would he pick his nose?
How would
yeah,
he he has a car that is.
how is he? Oh yeah, he has a
how does he
car with a
drive?
razor fist like splattered all over the side.
How does he drive?
How
Yeah.
would he drive? If
How would
only
he
had-
move the right? How would he change gears?
No, the gears is fine. It could be automatic, so that's fine.
Oh yeah, but still, how would he move from first to second?
These are
They
the
could
things.
have
These are the
given
burning
him
questions. as geeks worry about
Yeah.
every night.
They could have given in a cyborg.
So that
hand.
actually, yeah, that actually could mean that the fist was only one form. The blade was only one form.
Okay, okay.
It could have probably, again, it could have been nanobots. It could change into any form, and it just chooses to make it into a blade.
A sword.
I don't know. Yeah, and Arnold's right. These are the questions that us geeks come up with because we
Keeps us
think too
awake.
much about the littlest
The
of
weird.
things, right? So yeah, so that's and then we go back to what one of the things that Paul mentioned, the timing of things.
Yeah.
How would Katie have learned how to be an expert archer in a matter of one day?
It was
Right, that
always
was-
in her.
It's
Remember?
always in her
She-
because she
she's-
was like a top honor student of her class.
It's in her.
Right?
Just waiting to have that opportunity to be.
Yeah,
Set
we didn't
free.
even get any. I mean, we know that she can drive like hell.
Yes.
Not just with the bus, but also with the car.
With the car.
Right? When
Yeah.
they took the car.
Exactly.
But yeah, we never got any idea that she was actually an accurate shooter.
Hmm.
Right? So and then all of a sudden, after less than 24 hours of training,
She's some sort of savant.
yeah, maybe that's just it.
The old lady sensed it, right?
She did. She did. And
That what? Oh yeah, that she had
Her
she had the
potential.
potential.
Her potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And she was like the spirit guide of Katie when it came to that.
Exactly.
I'm going to talk about how it should have ended. It's a YouTube video.
Yeah.
They actually had a portion in how it should have ended, where the people of Talo could have actually just waited for the 10 rings people to come in one by one through their cars through the portal into Talo, and could have just swiped them off one by one as they came in. But no, they had to wait in the village when they had to wait for the 10 rings people to come in, form, and meet them. Right? Maybe there were rules of engagement where they
it's
had to meet.
It's very. That's very
Right?
corny.
What? They would just wait for them. Yeah, there would be no
Tactics.
action. Right?
Tactics are are corny.
They're not good guy tactics. They're not protagonist tactics.
No, no.
But they're like winner tactics.
It's
Anyway.
true. That is true.
Yeah, and then of course because I enjoyed the character of the Mandarin from the comics and even from the role playing game that I played back when I was a kid.
Legends.
No, not Legends.
Oh,
The actual
Alliance?
dice. The actual
Oh,
dice.
the dice.
role-playing
Okay,
game.
role playing game.
A tabletop role playing game of Marvel superheroes. I was really disappointed that the 10 rings were just 10 rings of power, basically.
Yes, they're generic. It seems.
Yeah, they're very generic. In the comics, they have all of the different 10 rings have different powers. It's understandable. Because they had to differentiate it from the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then again, they could have differentiated it in a way that still kept the multi-powered version of the 10 rings, because they could have used nature as the source of power
Yeah.
of the 10 rings.
Yeah.
Like
I can
because
see that.
actually, like, some of the rings from the comic book Mandarin, actually one was fire, one was wind. They could have added
Very
earth,
elemental.
right?
Mm.
It could have been elemental,
Mm.
but no, it had to be just power.
Oh,
Yeah.
which reminds me, one of the likes one of us likes, one of the highs that I have
Mhm.
is actually the difference between Shang-Chi using those rings, how
The-
he uses those rings versus
the
what
light-
Wu.
The light effect.
No,
How
not
different
the
was it
The
though?
usage.
Because Shang-Chi, when he uses them as platforms. He uses it to swing around. So he throws a ring, he grabs it and swings. Then he throws another ring, he steps on it, then jumps. When Wood never uses it that way. He just propels himself up
Mhm.
to fly, and then he just shoots and turns them into weapons. While Shang-Chi uses them in different, not just as weapons, but as, I don't know, stepping stones.
Yeah, I mean that's
But
what.
the reason, the difference is there, and I like it. It's more like the good versus you know.
This
They
is the
wanted
this
to
is the protagonist way of doing
Yeah,
it. This is the
exactly,
antagonist
exactly.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm totally for what Joel is griping about, I guess, in terms of, we can use that word, about how the interpretation of the rings is. It's true. It's very, very nerfed. It's very, very flat in that regard. But I also enjoyed I also like the fact that it is different. That they decided to make it not just another set of various powers, because
Mm.
it's quite possible that with what we see in the mid-credit um, scenes, that the latent power of the rings haven't been fully explored yet.
Yeah,
It's
that's
quite
true.
possible that when Wu acquired the rings, it didn't really come with instruction manuals. So
Yeah.
he just put them on and says, "Ooh, I can now bounce around with these things."
I can understand that, but then why build it up as Wenwu being the Mandarin character, right?
To be fair,
To be fair, yes, he actually didn't want the name Mandarin because it's an
yes,
orange.
they
But then again,
they
I mean,
discussed
that's
it.
the whole. I mean, the entire time
Correct.
it was built up as
This
okay,
is the
this is the
Mandarin
Mandarin
version
character.
of the. This is the
Yeah,
MCU version of the Mandarin.
yeah. So
You're right. Yeah.
yeah, and they didn't deliver on that. For me, yeah.
Clearly have
But
different
Yeah, I guess
plans.
there's still hope
I have a
for that.
feeling that's what I call wiggle room.
Ah, no.
They don't want to commit yet. Wait another 8 years. They will. They
They'll
will come full
finally
circle.
say, okay, there are actually other powers. You've
But
just seen two,
they haven't
like
been
the.
fully unlocked.
No.
I
I
mean,
mean, I think
because I mean the whole point of the Hungar, that's actually more Earth, right?
Yeah.
It's an Earth martial arts. It's
Mm.
grounded.
ground very
It's
solid,
metal.
very close
Very
to the
solid,
ground,
yeah,
very
right?
low.
Yeah.
It's the martial arts of one of my favorite characters in Kung Fu Hustle.
Okay. I thought it was in Avatar the Last Airbender, but okay.
No, no, no. Of course, it's
Are you
it's
talking
in
about the
Kung Fu Hustle.
tailor?
The
The
tailor,
tailor.
the
Ah,
tailor kid.
right, right, right.
The gay
That
tailor.
that guy was so hilarious. That
Yeah,
actor was so
it's
hilarious.
very
The
good. It
character
was
was so
very good.
hilarious.
The
Right?
tailor
But yeah,
uses the rings and the staff, right?
No,
Or just the
no,
rings?
it
just the
just uses
rings.
the rings.
Rings.
It was the baker who used the staff.
Oh, right, the rolling, his
Yeah,
rolling pin.
He has a lot of
yeah. But
rolling
yeah,
pins.
but again, it's like it was so cool because he used it for defense and offense.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that there was a missed for me. That's a missed opportunity, and I hope that. Okay, so parang Kevin, please take notes from what Arnold said. Make it so that sometime in the future, you actually unlock the other 8 powers of the 10 rings because we've seen force and we've
We've
seen
seen
stepping
we've seen
stones.
purple and we've seen yellow. Come on, let's get
Yeah,
all other powers.
that's yeah.
All
So
other
yeah,
ones.
so we just need 8 more colors.
8 more colors. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so then yeah, and we're gonna go into that awkward
Uh,
look shared by Wenwu and Shang-Chi. It was so mirrored. It mirrored the look between Wenwu and Lee so much that it became awkward.
I wished Shang-Chi, well, Simu, came up with a slightly different facial expression, and
Yeah.
it would have been more.
It was too calm. It was too
It
accepting and
was
all
too.
of that.
I'm one with the force at the moment.
No, but even before that scene, right? When he was practicing with his aunt, with Michelle Yeoh, Michelle, or before that, the greeting, sorry, outside the village, Michelle Yeoh said, "You look so much like your mother." Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why he got
Sure,
reminded of
sure.
his wife
Okay.
when.
So we were yeah, because we have to keep in mind that we were looking through the eyes of Wenwu when we saw the face of Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
weird. Okay,
Still
but
weird.
okay,
Still
yeah,
weird.
well,
Sorry, no, still
yeah,
weird.
So it's still awkward. Okay, and my next low has been sort of made. I was sort of pacified by Arnold
Oh,
stating
okay,
that it's an
yeah.
actual mythological creature.
Correct. Yeah. It's not something that
Yeah,
this
but
is
for me, it's this whole thing of Disney Marvel to try and shoehorn cute things into their movies so that they can sell them as kawaii toys later on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
right? You've got Grogu, you've got the Porg. Although the Porg from Star Wars never really sold,
Yep.
but Grogu is like a huge selling point for them.
Yeah.
Again, then you've got what's the name? Morris.
Morris, yep.
I'm sure that they're gonna come up with Morris plush toys sooner or later. They're gonna try and sell it because I mean the creature was adorable. The way
Cuteness
that it,
factor, yeah, yeah.
yeah, the way that
When he
it
acted
interacted
around.
with Slattery,
Mm-hmm.
that was so cute. It was like okay, a little puppy with no face,
Yeah.
right? And wings.
Six-legged puppy,
A six-legged puppy with four wings but didn't fly.
and made these
I never saw
nice
it fly.
trilling
Yeah.
sounds.
Yeah. So yeah, I basically I'm waiting for the MCU formula. I'm waiting for the MCU formula to get changed up a little. Again, this one it still followed the MCU formula. You have the exposition, and then you've got this whole the villain who is relatable, and then in the end you have to have a big CGI filled fight
Yep.
scene in Act 3, right, where it's not where the villain actually resolves and becomes at peace with what they did, and repents in a way,
Are you talking about?
because of what they did.
Are you somehow talking about Thanos at the end of Endgame?
Mm.
Oh, and even Killmonger at the end of Black Panther,
Yes,
right?
All of them, actually.
All of them become, I mean, they have that point in the film where they're like, okay, I've done my part, I'm now good, I'm okay now.
Wait. So actually, okay, and I hate to do this, but
Oh, I'm gonna
does
answer you any whatever you're gonna say.
doesn't that make the I forgot his name, the bad guy in Black Widow a better villain because
That's
he's
it.
not
That's one of the
remorseful?
things I've been
Yeah.
pushing. That's one of the things I've been pushing.
There's no arc. He's just a
He
bad
didn't have
guy.
that. He's just a bad guy, and I actually like the fact that they did that.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Okay,
And not only
gotcha.
so, there was no repentance on the end of it.
No,
So,
no,
so you
no.
feel
They
you
didn't
feel
make him
good.
relatable. He was
Yeah.
really, and I think that was because they had a different slant for that.
Correct.
They were going for
I
the
understand.
whole
I
right.
understand. Yep.
And remember that his character, I forget, I really wish I could remember. His character has been operating in the background for so long.
Just
that
like
he
when
had to be fair, when that's true.
But when Wu retired,
But when Wu retired,
yeah,
yes, there were, when the story started, he was already what do you call this? He's already put down the 10 rings.
Yeah.
So obviously when
and took on another one.
and took a different ring. So when Yelena actually blew up the ship, it actually felt good. It's like I was like, yeah, I got
Just desserts.
Yeah.
and all that. Um, um, well, unfortunately, I don't think that formula is gonna change, only because it's been working. The good thing though is that it doesn't mean that they're not experimenting. So we have stuff like WandaVision. We have the TV series that's giving them that elbow room to experiment. But I don't think the movie's ever gonna try that out. It'd be great if they did. And obviously there's how many more phases that have they announced already? So we're starting phase 4.
At least there's a phase 5.
There's definitely going to be a phase 5 because during Disney Plus Day, we've seen a whole slew of stuff that's gonna come out. So there's opportunity for that to happen. So I want it to happen so that there's a little bit more excitement. I know that a lot of people are complaining about the Marvel formula, but the formula works. So yeah.
I hate that Secret Invasion is a Disney Plus series.
But it gives them more chance to
Correct. Because
explore,
remember,
to, like,
Secret
explore.
Invasion needs to be slow and deliberate. I think that's the problem with Secret Invasion.
But they're I mean it's like a superhero fest.
Correct,
Secret
correct.
Invasion involves everyone.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting in the sense that they might be now forced, quote unquote, to bring in a lot of the MCU
The top
mainline
level
characters
heroes.
into the TV show, right? I mean, apart from
Yeah.
What If, which is animated, the actual live action ones. So there's that. Mine are a
Oh
little bit
yeah, what are yours?
more character related. So I found Simu Liu to be one of the weaker actors in this movie.
Really?
Yes. Yes, more because I think I really thought that next to um, Tony Leung's One Way, I found him to be a bit more. So taking away the villainy, right? Taking that one away, Tony Leung is just such an intense character actor
Actor.
Actor.
that it seems like if you put Simu next to him, he seems to be such a rookie when
Mm.
when they interact. It's just even that sequence in the when when
Even
Wu
the look?
visits, even those looks, yes, even those looks, the way he stares, it's very simple, it's very subtle.
Mm.
But he just has this intensity. He doesn't need to be mad to look mad for you to know that he's just really seething, or his intent, his killing intent is strong.
So he has the smoldering ability.
He doesn't really smolder. I think
He
smolder is not
smolders.
the word I'm looking for.
Imagine if
I'm just
Tony
saying
Leung
intense.
and The
Intense is
Rock
probably
meet.
the better one. Yes, now smolder we leave it to Rock.
Yeah.
So no, he doesn't smolder. So yeah, I just felt that he's also one of the weaker characters. I mentioned that Trevor Slattery was one of my highs. He's also one of my lows, because in he's a joke character essentially.
Yeah.
We brought him back to make fun of him. He doesn't contribute much apart from being the translator for Morris.
He plays dead at the battle scene.
He
in the
plays
battle
dead at the
scene.
battle scene. At the very
Yeah.
least, he didn't have to learn a bow in 10,
Yeah.
an hour.
Yeah,
This
he
one's a little
relied
bit
on
more
his own
acting
skills.
skills.
Yeah, his
Natural
acting skills.
instinct.
correct.
Yeah.
And then Morris also highlights the fact that he's a foil in this movie by playing dead along with it, along with him. So
That's funny.
it sort of felt like a waste that he was there. At the same time, he's there because of all of those things I mentioned earlier. So I don't know. He somehow felt out of place, I guess. Especially
No, not somehow. He really was. out of
especially in
place.
that final sequence, he was so out
Yeah.
of place. He did add to a lot more. I guess one of the things you can say is that him being there made Aquafina's character less of the comedic foil that you initially thought that she might be, and allowed her to become a bit more of an integral.
Yeah.
Because that's where the switch happens, right? When they
Yeah,
escape and get to the village, he's there, so he's now the jester,
Yeah.
and then
she's
Aquafina
the
becomes
ranger.
Yeah, becomes Legolas
Yeah.
all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of skipped this in the highs, but I just wanted to rattle out how I really enjoyed Menger Zhang as Xialing, because to be fair, she kind of has like a very limited facial expression range, but I just really enjoyed her character, how she portrayed Xialing as this character who's in the shadow of not only her father but also her bigger brother, as being a female, right? She learned to fight on her own, which is an amazing skill. She managed to establish an organization, albeit questionable nature, a very successful one as well, and then later on obviously inherits. Behind her,
I don't
behind her
think she
brother's
inherited.
back,
I think she took over.
she took over it. Behind her brother's back, she did say that she's gonna dismantle it, not
Yeah.
rebrand it.
Yeah.
to her own.
She probably dismantled like the operation and changed it to how
I
she
forget.
felt it should
I
run.
can't remember
They're
if we
not
saw.
gonna be in the shadows anymore.
Did we
Yeah.
see a Razor Fist part of that?
He was there.
Yeah, he was there. He was there.
There you go.
He called her, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh yes, in
ready
the
for
you.
end.
Ready.
Oh yeah.
They're
Now I
ready,
ready
and
remember.
then
for you.
they're ready for what? For her to like sit down on the chair, and then
So
for the
basically,
camera to pan out.
I think the
She's
assumption
the new
was
Mandarin.
he
Oh.
was saying they're ready for you means she's gonna do an announcement that they're gonna retire,
Yeah.
but then we get treated to a
Yeah,
different.
she sits down, and then everyone is training as
She
the
sits down
camera
the
pans
same
out.
way that when Wu sits in the opening sequence. So she goes,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
leans on the left, and then it pans out the same way, and then there's different people, obviously a lot
And
more
now
women
it's men and women
fighting.
training
Yeah.
together.
Yes, the women
Equal,
have
equal.
staves, longer staves with the crescent moon blade on the hilt, whereas the men still have the size.
Yeah.
Right, so that's
That was actually a powerful sequence. It just didn't quite make sense to me.
Her taking over or the sequence itself?
The sequence,
Okay.
the her sitting down there, taking over the 10 rings, and then panning out,
I
and then
appreciated it
seeing how
more
he took
after my
over.
third watch, because that's when it's like, oh yeah, so they're mirroring that sequence. It's now it's gonna
Mhm.
show that, hey, this is that 10 rings, but this is
But
the 10 rings
yeah,
now.
a different than because
Yeah.
that's what the things that I noticed, the graffiti in the walls, the solar
Mm.
panels. So that's
Mm.
basically just saying that it's the 10 rings, but in a different
Yeah.
direction maybe.
Modern ten
Yeah.
rings.
So
So probably they'll be involved in hacking, right? Not not all of
they
these.
still probably will be taking advantage of that wide network and infamy
Yeah.
for people to actually still call on them to do these gray or black ops things. Um, so I may not have liked Trevor Slattery's character, but I really enjoyed. I
What he
really
did.
enjoyed. No, his name escapes me.
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley.
In his acting is really just funny, and I enjoyed watching him.
I agree.
And I believe we've already touched in a lot of our expectations and theories throughout the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So let's establish it now. Paul, do you have any theories or
Okay.
expectations moving?
I didn't write anything,
Mm.
but because I actually just had one thought, and it wasn't like it was easy to remember, and it was shown in the what do you call it? The stinger at the end. Sorry, the mid credits,
The mid-credits
where
or
the rings actually when they were used activated a homing beacon.
Mm-hmm.
So
So here's a
Who
question.
is your
It was
expectation?
used by Shang Chi,
By Shang
not by
Chi.
Wen Wu. That's
Yeah.
what it
So when the yellow power
when
was
the positive
activated,
energy,
when the
when
protagonist when it was used the protagonist way.
when the protagonist power
when,
was used,
when he did the Buddha pump.
that's what
Yeah.
what
Heaven-
was
the
in
heaven bomb.
that's when it was activated.
Hmm.
I have no idea who's coming. I'm just saying that
Well,
there's something there.
we'd like to say it's Fing Fang Foom,
I hope that it is
right?
what
'Cause it's
why
coming
why-
coming to reclaim his rings.
then why would the positive energy activate the homing beacon?
Because the negative energy was continuing what he wanted. But now that
No.
someone good
my theory
was-
there,
was
and this
using
one.
it, yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna jump in with my theory since it's
Yeah,
completely
go.
related,
Go ahead.
anyways. Is that my theory is that the latent power of the rings is now slowly being activated
Oh.
unwittingly by Shang Chi.
Mhm.
And this is why the rings, the beacon, is activated.
Okay.
Mhm.
I have a feeling that the purple power that when Wu tapped in was either incomplete or not even any of the powers. It's like one of those latent things that's surrounding it because
So it was sleep mode.
something
was
like that.
sleep
Yeah,
mode.
yeah. Whereas Shang-Chi's usage of it is actually one.
He actually
of the
turned it on.
powers. Correct.
He turned the
Yeah.
device on.
It might actually be one of the powers of the rings. And interestingly, though, this is not the first time when Shang-Chi actually gains control of the rings.
Mm.
This wasn't the first time it turned yellow. It turned yellow when Lee, the mother,
Yeah.
So there's a specific
there must be either there's a specific reason that it's only Shang-Chi was able to activate it.
because he is the product of his mother and his
He has
father. He
accepted
brings
himself.
balance
He
to
is
the
the
now
Force.
complete.
to the force.
He is now both yin and yang.
Yeah.
My other theory about that one is that because Shang-Chi actually has all 10, whereas his mother only had
He just had
Five.
5.
Mm.
Right. So maybe
So it
That's
kind of like
true.
50% to activating beacon. But
Yeah.
no,
no,
it
not
didn't
quite. No.
quite-
She
yeah.
just turned it into a Kamihani wave
Yeah.
and threw it back. Right, there you go. Because she doesn't want any of it. It's like this thing. Don't need it.
Yeah. I don't need all of these bracelets. I need a ring on my finger, dude.
Yeah. If you like it, put the ring on it, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to see is the new organized 10 rings interacting with the power broker.
Oh,
Oh,
they're
that
definitely
would've-
going
that
to.
would
I
be
have a
cool.
strong feeling that Sharon Carter is just gonna, hey, what's up, homie?
Yeah. And then they're gonna become the
Birds
new
of a
Bene
feather.
Gesserit.
Oh
They're
my
gonna
Completely.
move behind the scenes
behind the
and
scenes.
control everything.
Funny thing, when we were first seeing the trailers of Shang-Chi, everybody expected the fight to actually be occurring in Madripoor, which it did not.
Yeah.
It was occurring
Oh,
in
but-
Yeah.
Macau.
But no, it's in Macau.
It's in Macau. It's an actual place. So it's different. So it wasn't Madripoor. So it's not as directly connected yet to the power broker, but I
No.
have a strong feeling. You're right. That's a very
Yeah.
good theory.
Speaking of the fight, that's one of your things, Arnold.
Correct. So before I get to that, Joel, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, all in all, yes, I did enjoy it. I guess you can say that I enjoyed it. It did introduce some new concepts, like the whole friendship thing between Katie and Shang. But for me, Shang-Chi felt a little. I'm gonna use what Paul said. It's a stepping stone to tell more stories. Yeah, that whole beacon thing. It seemed as if the entire film was in order for them to be able to tell that
Yes.
mid-credits
I mean,
scene
correct, yeah.
that there's a beacon that has been lit, and then there's an intergalactic threat that's headed our way.
Yeah.
Right? It seemed as if it was headed there.
Mm.
Right? And it just so happened that in order for us to tell that story, we have to tell the story of Shang-Chi and Wenwu.
Oh, and
Right.
by the way, there's this 10 ring things that we've been dangling in front of everybody for the last 10 years. Might as
Yeah,
well throw
let's
that in.
resolve that so that we can actually tell a new story.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I would have preferred it if it were like a self-contained story, and then maybe later on just revisit it like what you guys said, that eight years later or 5 years later. Oh, you know what? When you actually started using your 10 bracelets, it activated something. It activated a beacon,
you're
and
right,
now
it's gonna
that's
set up
why
something.
we've got this intergalactic dragon being headed our way.
Woo! Triple F.
Right? Yeah. So that's one of the things that I observed. That's an observation. Now I'm going to my expectations. I hope it still hasn't dropped here in the Philippines. I hope that they actually change up the MCU formula however they can with Eternals.
Oh, you're talking meta. You're not only specific to Shang-Chi.
No, yeah. I hope that they change the MCU formula. Yeah, I hope that it changes. I'm getting really tired of the MCU formula. I'm still gonna enjoy it, but I'm not, especially after having watched Dune.
Right.
Yeah, it's the experience is so different. And yeah, I hope that they change it. Uh, yeah, like what Arnold said, it's highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
Right? Highly
Well,
unlikely.
At the very
You've
least
seen
for
the trailers.
especially for the Eternals, based on the
Yeah.
trailers.
Yeah. You've already seen the trailers. It doesn't. I mean, that scene where Angelina Jolie reaches for the orange or the apple with a spear, right? And then there's a comment where you're not a good aunt or something. But it was supposed to be a joke moment. So it's the same formula.
It'll be no. I mean, same format in a sense that there's these. The only difference obviously is their exposition's a lot longer because they're they're there at the beginning of humanity.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a existential threat. We need to help out now. So
Yeah. I'm still holding out hope. It drops here in the Philippines at the end of the month. I'm gonna watch it in the cinema. I hope that they change it a bit. My third one, and this is a theory that I hope I had wanted them to pay off, because we get teased with all of these tiny details
Yeah.
that added up actually could have made a good story, and it could have made a good conflict between Katie and Shang, because we do know that Shang's mother was killed by what was it, the Iron Gang, the Iron
They're
Clan?
called the
Iron Fist.
Gang,
No, not
Iron-
the Fist.
Iron Gang.
They're the
Okay.
Iron Gang, and then they were
Iron Fist
basically all
gang.
these older dudes.
This is
Yeah.
like
right?
70s
The
Yeah, they were like
hatchet.
in 70s.
The
yeah,
Axe Gang.
Exactly.
sort of
No,
like
it's
the
not
Axe Gang, but they weren't in all black.
Exactly. They were pretty
But
much
yeah,
the same.
basically your typical goons, right?
Yeah.
And then
The way
so we
they're
have
dressed,
that.
Oh my gosh.
What? I'm sorry.
The way they're dressed. It's really
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
from
so
the
70s, like the suits, gangsters in suits, and
Brown.
then they just didn't have access. And then Shang gets trained for 14 years, and as his final assignment, he was sent to the U.S. to assassinate one of the murderers of his mother.
Yep.
Right.
The
And
leader.
then, yes, the leader. And then, when we juxtapose that with that breakfast story, where they were celebrating the Day of the Dead, and then they were honoring the grandfather of Katie, I was half expecting for the guy, the grandfather of Katie, to be the leader of the Iron Gang who killed Shang Chi's mother. Paring Kevin, you should pay that off, right?
But
Uh,
haven't they done something similar with the Winter Soldier,
Yes. Yes. And that was
where he
that
was friends
established
with
a very
the
good story.
father
It
of
became the onus for Civil War.
Civil War.
It's a pretty
But then again, Katie isn't a superhero unless she
Yeah,
actually
I
is
was-
Katie
I was about
Bishop.
to say.
No.
I
I'm
was
talking
about to say,
that
what kind of
the-
story do you want to tell, anyways?
Because I want them to explore that relationship between Katie and Shang. And then you find out. I was actually waiting. You remember that quiet moment the night before the Ten Rings arrived,
Yeah, that,
when they were sitting down on the grass, and then
I am not who I am.
yeah, all of that. I was waiting for him to say that I killed your grandfather. That would have been like a whoa moment that would have changed the MCU formula for me. That would have okay, but they didn't do it.
No,
I hope
she
that they
needed-
pay it off
She
later on.
remember she was the one who fired the
The winning
critical,
shot.
the critical shot. Exactly.
She rolled the 20 for that.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
she needed to be,
Natural.
her mind and her heart needed to be in the game.
Wouldn't it have been more compelling then if she made that shot knowing that she was saving the person who killed her grandfather?
That's true.
Yeah, but that's not the MCU way.
That's the thing.
No.
I'm you can sense that I'm not
Exactly.
I
I'm
know,
getting
I
tired
know,
of the
I
MCU
know,
way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's it. I hope that they do pay it off, because we never really do know what happens. Who Shang-Chi actually kills?
No.
Just
I
the head
hope-
of the gang, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it wasn't
we never-
explained.
We don't
just
even know
say-
if he actually
just
did
says.
pull it off.
Yeah, he
never-
said he can't confess.
He confessed, but again, is the narrator? Can we rely on him?
Reliable narrator.
Yeah.
'Cause
Isn't
14 years
Shang-Chi
old
the one
trailer.
who narrated? Oh, you
Exactly.
mean
It's
do
still
we
the
can we
same.
trust Shang-Chi?
Yeah, can I trust him to say that he actually did it?
Okay.
I mean, Mr. Feige could always say no, he was just fibbing.
Retcon.
Yeah, retcon it. They've retconned a whole lot already.
Wiggle room.
So-
Is your famous album.
Wiggle room.
That's the wiggle room.
Exactly. So what? Well, one thing that we did, that they did actually establish, is that we get to see the Abomination again, in the fight scene. So this is one of the things that they already teased very early on in the trailers. We get to see a fight scene between Wong and Abomination, and we couldn't understand why. So, and this is the cage fight in Xiaoling's underground, obviously illegal fighting um,
Fight club.
fight club of sorts, where we see a varied amount of characters. We got Black Widows. We got Widows. We've got what was in
E
Iron...
Honda was there.
Who?
E Honda.
Honda.
There was a sumo wrestler. Yes, they were
Yeah.
fighting a guy who uses karate. I don't understand how that would even work out.
It's Street
there was
Fighter.
Even, it's
That
no
was
holds barred.
Ryu and E Honda.
Yeah.
Who was? What was the? I keep forgetting this, but I think I've already asked you, Paul, this one before. What do we call in Iron Man 2? No, Iron Man 3.
Mhm.
Where we got who was the villain in Iron Man 3? I know it was the Mandarin, but it was somebody else.
Yeah.
Killian.
Killian.
Yeah.
Killian.
Killian.
He became glowy. What was
Extremist.
that? Extremist.
Yeah.
There was a dude
Yeah.
with extremist in the fight scene as well, which kind of like, won't he just explode? So
Maybe he has
But
it
he
under
had to.
control.
He had to. Yeah, keep it under control
Yeah.
because he needs the money.
maybe. All right. So there was an interesting fight sequence, obviously. So we were like, okay, so why is Emil Blonsky and Wong working together? And it was clearly working together because
They
had a
were,
chat.
yeah.
It was like a wrestling match. It was like
It was
WWE.
heels and faces. I was surprised when he said, "Oh, you wanna feel how that punch?"
That was so cool how they did that.
Spatial thing, spatial magic. Use your power. Literally, use the power of your opponent against him. I mean, he's a practitioner of Tai Chi.
Yeah. But wait, so Arnold, what are you expecting or theorizing that they're gonna set that up for?
We already know that Wong is going to be interested in the Ten Rings because it
Mhm.
seems to be mystical in nature, and anything mystical in nature requires that the master of mystical arts, like him and Doctor Strange, will dabble in. It's their it's their MO, right? Now, Emil Blonsky's Abomination.
Mhm.
The current theory is that he's going to be part of the
Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers.
The Dark Avengers or Thunderbolts, whichever the badass version of the Avengers.
Mhm.
So why is he training with a Wong?
and they're very
They're friendly.
cordial.
They're
very
cordial. Says, come
yeah.
on, let's go back. Let's do this again or something like that.
Yeah.
So, two things. Obviously, they kind of need the money. That's why they're doing the.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to imagine how does the Sanctum Sanctorum get kept up?
Yeah.
Where does the money come from to keep
Yeah.
up the Sanctum
So
Sanctorum?
now we
Especially
know.
with-
So
Yeah,
now we
especially
know.
with Strange, like filling it with snow in the next Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, we don't actually have an explanation of why it's snowing. Maybe they haven't fixed the
Yeah.
hole in the wall that Bruce Banner made.
That
So-
never got
so
fixed
maybe
up.
that's why
See,
it's-
that's why they need the money.
That's why they need the money.
They need to
yes,
fix
yeah.
up the roof.
So
Yeah.
sorcerers don't get paid. They still have to pay taxes apparently. So I mean, my theory here is that Abomination is not yet at the very least working for Countess Val.
Contessa. Yeah.
The Contessa, but is actually working with not exactly Strange, because he might be off and doing his own things in
Mhm.
the bigger multiverse, but in at the very least in New York, they needed people to be reliable people to help them fight off whatever baddies are currently running amok. I mean, there's no clear reason for somebody who's as strong as Abomination to be walking
Working
around.
with the sorcerers.
Exactly, unless there's some clear and present danger that we need to work with.
Right.
And the Avengers, obviously he can't join the Avengers. I don't know if they have a thing with Bruce Banner. It'll be interesting when Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner actually meets up with Emil Blonsky.
Yeah, with
Says,
Blonsky.
I remember you, but I don't
Your
because that
face
wasn't
is
me.
different, but I remember you.
And
Why does he still have the sling though?
why does?
Banner still have the sling.
You're asking why does he have the sling?
Yeah, sling.
Because this is supposed to be
The
like
period of
it's
time.
not supposed to be years after Endgame.
This is not
This
very.
just came.
This is
supposed to
almost
be months
immediate
after. Because remember, this was supposed to be before WandaVision.
Correct.
Oh,
So
okay, gotcha.
WandaVision is just like weeks after Endgame.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are all happening at the same time. To be fair, when we saw the trailer for She-Hulk, he's fully healed.
Yeah.
He's fully healed. And we can actually see that he can switch between Smart Hulk and normal Bruce.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, oh, okay, cool. Yep. So I don't have I expect him to show up with whatever Wong will be doing next.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect Wong to be doing something very, very important in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be purely in the realm of Strange. So it'll
Do
be
you
interesting.
think that it's gonna be like a buddy cop thing?
Who?
Abomination and Wong?
Yes, it could be
That would be
something
cool.
like that. Yeah, because remember, Wong is not very physically strong, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what Abomination brings.
What's
to
a
the
good
table.
title? What's a good title?
But Buddy Wong, what? Will this
Bomi
be
and
the
Wong.
new Rush Hour? Apart from that, obviously, I already mentioned earlier that my theory is that the rings is now going to be the next time we see the rings, we'll be exploring how they're going to be powered up, and that will potentially give us the opportunity to see multiple powers, very akin to how the rings are being shown in.
And then here's an additional a bonus theory. It's been Mephisto all no. So there's the beacon thing.
Yes.
So the 10 rings are actually there's gonna be distributed to 10 people, and there's gonna be one ring
To rule them
rule them
all.
I wonder if the Ten Rings organization will be participating with in the Armor Wars.
Yeah, it could
They
be.
probably could.
We now know that they have interests in a lot of technology. So
I'm actually wondering if they're still really connected to the 10 rings that kidnapped Stark in the first place.
there's sort of like an offshoot.
Yeah,
That's
because
the
it wasn't established. Yeah.
Mm.
And was it established in Iron Man 3 that was
No,
the same 10 rings?
That was the copycat, right? That was the copycat Ten Rings
Correct.
in Iron Man 1.
Yes.
in Iron Man 1. Yeah.
And then the Mandarin, Trevor
Slattery.
Slattery's Mandarin was the head honcho of that. Well, they
Supposedly
needed
they're
him.
correct.
They needed him to sit as this leader. I
Mm.
completely forget why they actually needed a leader.
Killian
Because
needed
Killian
him,
wanted
yeah.
wanted a goat.
Okay.
Yeah.
They wanted the goat, right? Yeah. So instead of him being associated with that offshoot of Ten Rings, this one was what the authorities would focus on. Or at the very
Hopefully we
least,
will still see them like come out every so often.
Oh, and the Hand also.
The Hand hasn't joined the MCU.
Yeah, the Hand hasn't come out yet. In the
I'd
MCU.
like them to show up, so there's even more ninja action going on.
Was the Hand in Ant-Man?
No,
It was the first Ant-Man
purely Netflix.
Yes, Defenders at the very least.
Yeah, Defenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't seen how Defenders is gonna join up. Even if
Even if
Matt
even if
Murdock
Murdoch is gonna come out in
is
No
gonna
Way
show
Home.
up in No Way Home, as the theories are supposed to be correct. Well, that is it for our full reactions episode and our discussion about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten... Boy, that is a mouthful.
Just say Shang-Chi.
It's currently in cinemas and streaming on Disney Plus.
I'm watching it in the cinema this on the 24th.
Yay! Well done. Well, cinemas are finally opening up again everywhere, which is great.
Mhm.
Thank you again to Paul and Joel for joining me in sharing thoughts and impressions and theories. As always, dear audience, we hope you tune in to our next episode and continue to hang out with us. Till then, bye.